Right, so Keir Starmer is off to Unite conference on Thursday at the invite of General Secretary Sharon Graham, it would appear, because the membership weren't asked if they wanted him. Absolute uproar has ensued as a result, and a protest, no less, is now planned between 12 p.m. and 2 p.m. ahead of the chocolate teapot of a Labour leader taking the stage there, no doubt bleating about what he can't afford to do in power anymore and all the policies he once promised that he's now binning. As if he doesn't bore people rigid enough to begin with, he now wants to depress them as well, and do it at trade union level, no less. And in an act that could have come straight out of Starmer's authoritarian playbook, the diktat has been handed down from on high by the Unite executive that for anyone who cannot sit down and shut up while Starmer drones on, they should stay away, because interrupting the brill-creamed borefest would be disrespectful to an invited guest. I wonder if the first thought jumping into your mind is the same thing that jumped into mine. A trade union ordering its own delegates, representatives of Unite members, Unite branches from workplaces to community to retirees, to not protest. That is literally what this is. This is what this instruction is about. Do not protest. Starmer's coming, so no strike action against him, please. This hall is not a picket line. If you want to protest, go outside. I thought you weren't political, Sharon. I thought you were all for the workers. Now, you led the union. That is what you said at the time, isn't it? All for the workers until Starmer comes along, apparently. Then the workers have to sit down and shut up and know their place. She's been disappointing from the get-go, but this is just shambolic. What an insult to the people who pay your wages and support the union financially with their dues, whilst the person who is still taking £1 million a year out of those dues turns up, uninvited by the vast majority of those in attendance, and you ban any kind of protest against that. We won't give Labour a blank cheque, says Sharon Graham, whilst handing Labour one for £1 million instead. Really resonates, that message now, doesn't it? Starmer is for the bosses, not the workers. He's for the rich and not the poor, for the few and not the many, for the fossil fuel industry and not the tree huggers, for the donors and not the voters. I sincerely hope a great deal of those delegates join the protest outside of the Brighton Centre and frankly stay there, rather than attend inside an empty hall his almost certainly pathetic speech, because this is gross. I hope a few of them protest against Sharon Graham whilst they're at it now too. Of course, if there's one thing Sharon Graham can't seem to cope with very well is negativity against her personally. So, of course, a response has been issued by her since news broke several days ago that Keith was going to Unite conference. In response to news that Labour were not going to do anything different, it's all they stand for these days after all, saying no to things these days should they get into power. In this instance, it was about Rachel Reeves bleating about her fiscal rules again and copying the Tories and refusing to uprate public sector pay in line with the pay review body recommendations. Well, Sharon Graham announced again that she was putting Labour on notice. Again. How many times has she put Labour on notice now? Is this notice on the notice at this point? How much notice is too much notice? Frankly, what does putting Labour on notice even mean when it amounts to words and no action? Is it just a blank piece of paper with the word notice at the top? I'm not the only one to notice the notice being given again either. Graphics Wizard the Agitator on Twitter made this little mock-up, a tongue-in-cheek dig at Graham, which speaks volumes for an awful lot of people thinking the same thing. And this meme did the rounds too, of course, reminding us of what could have been if things had worked out differently. A union boss telling union members they can't protest something isn't a union boss, isn't acting in members' interests, I don't think, when they feel a valid reason to protest. They're part of the problem, regardless of whatever rhetoric they come out with, because actions speak louder than words, and Graham's actions put her on Starmer's side here. What next if Starmer reaches power and still doesn't deliver as he prepares to give a speech to your members where no doubt he'll offer no hope once again? For 2 flipping years, Sharon, you have said Starmer's on notice, that you want workers' voices to be heard despite the fact he won't listen, consistently ignores anything he doesn't want to hear, an arrogant authoritarian with a superiority complex. Yet when it comes to the crunch, you side with him, now instructing members you talk tough in front of to be quiet about him at conference. For 2 years, you have been saying you want Labour to fight for your members if they want to win the next election. And for 2 years, Labour have just moved further to the right, away from the policies that would make a difference to your members. But heaven forbid members stand up and say that to Starmer directly, say what you've been bleating on social media and in all of your Unite press releases. Did you mean any of it, in which case? 2 kids from Green New Deal Resist unrolling a banner behind him in Kent the other day did more to put Starmer on notice than you ever have. Members need to feel they have something to vote for and feel that different choices are being made, you say. Well, on this, I agree with you, and I hope everyone goes out and votes green at the next election, making indeed a very different choice, and voting for something different and for change, and not for more of the same. You haven't put Starmer on notice. You've offered him nothing but unqualified support from where I'm looking at, and are now gagging the representatives of your own membership from saying so to his face. Yesterday, Unite voted to not disaffiliate from the Labour Party, and Graham's response to that? This is the moment of maximum leverage for the union to start holding Labour to account. Now cannot be the time to walk away. We would be weakening our arm. Well, try strengthening your arm instead, and instead of leaving Keith on perpetual, repeated, meaningless notice, withhold the union dues until he delivers. Set it aside. It's there for Labour when he acts like a representative of the working class people, and not the Tory Tribute Act he thinks he can get away with being. Unite are Labour's biggest funders. The power is indeed yours, Sharon. But when it comes down to it, you'd rather support Starmer instead of challenging him. And this EC diktat to not protest his appearance at conference, to sit down and shut up, is more proof as if members needed it of that. Graham's refusal to act meaningfully, never going beyond tough talk, is grating like sin now. That she's imposing that weakness on members now is a disgrace. Either show some grit and some clout towards Starmer's act and show some actions to back your actions up with not just words, see some actions, or just get the hell out so someone else can come in who will actually do that. Thanks for watching. If you care to like, share and subscribe, if you enjoyed the video and would like to see more, that'd be very much appreciated. And here's another vid, amongst hundreds more for you as my recommendation to watch next, where a Unite executive directive saw the Jeremy Corbyn film The Big Lie banned from being shown in all Unite buildings. Too political, apparently. Well, what is gagging your own membership while Starmer speaks called then? Any suggestions? Leave them in the comments and I'll hopefully catch you on the next vid. Cheers, folks.